Hello and welcome to Your Way, a teaching charitable organization that I have established to enhance education and mental development in young people. My friends, the evidence I used in this video are for educational purposes only. They are not to be used for the manifestation of hate or resentment, because nothing good has ever derived from hate and resentment. Additionally, copies of these declassified documents can be obtained from the National Security Archive for public and educational use. On the 24th of June 2025, a Guyanese newspaper published an article with the headline, "President Warns Citizens Against Jeopardizing Guyana's Security with Their Vote." Many people in Guyana would not understand what that means. However, the Guyanese people historically did jeopardize the development of that nation with their vote. For you to fully understand this, we have to go back into Guyanese history of politics and political ideologies, especially in the realm of geopolitics. Because if we do not understand our political history, then we run the risk of it repeating it on ourselves. That risk is likely to manifest itself in this upcoming election, and for that reason, we must educate the nation in order to avoid it. You see, the Guyanese political arena has always been dominated by a two-party political force, which is the PPP and the PNC. Now, this two-party political force structure has been created by the Western masters, and they install this in every so-called democracy on the planet. Historically, the Western masters deemed Jagan, who was the leader of the PPP, to be a communist, and they deemed Burnham, who was the leader of the PNC, to be a socialist. And of course, we all know the Western ideology is capitalist, so that put the cat among the pigeon. So now let's examine what implications that had onto us. On the 14th of March 1962, a declassified CIA document revealed the following to us. The most powerful indigenous political force in the colony has been the communist-oriented PPP. So it is very clear they deemed the PPP to be a communist-oriented party. It has derived its strength mainly from East Indians, most of whom live in the countryside, but some of whom are prosperous businessmen. In the August 1961 election, it won 42% of the popular vote. But this was sufficient to give it a narrow majority in the legislature. Note 4 in that document, the principal opposition party, the Socialist PNC of L. Forbes Burnham, is supported by the colony's large Negro population in cities, including most government employees. Well, this situation has not yet changed. And in bauxite mining areas, it won 41% of the popular vote, only 1% less than the PPP in the August 1961 elections. Note 6 of the same report states, the British, however, will not wish to delay granting independence indefinitely. They are not happy about prolonging their financial burden in Guyana, about $20 million a year. So based on this report, it is very clear that the British did not give Guyana to the Guyanese because they were nice. They gave it to the Guyanese because they drained it of its resources, make the country bankrupt, and the country was on its knees. Another report dated the 15th of June 1962 states, in considering all overall strategy toward British Guyana, we have again assessed the consequences of an independent British Guyana under Jagan's leadership. Such a possibility disturbs us seriously. We must recognize that Jagan is now thoroughly distrustful of our motives. So it is quite clear that the CIA and the United States government was willing to derail democracy to achieve their own personal agenda. We must be entirely frank in saying that we simply cannot afford to see another Castro-type regime established in this hemisphere. Another report dated the 12th of July 1962 reads, "We feel compelled, therefore, to set our objective of an independent British Guyana under some other leader than Jagan. This would provide an opportunity for a government of a different complexion to come into power through democratic process. The President has personally studied the problem and has come to this conclusion that there is no alternative to developing a program to bring about a suitable coalition and to assure that Jagan does not win another election. So again, democracy has to be binned." Another report in 1962 reads, "The CIA has assumed full responsibility in the US government for the security of all planning and covert action concerning this blank operation. The State Department is kept fully informed of all development on a regular basis." The CIA contacted Lyndon Forbes Burnham, leader of the PNC, and Peter DeGard, leader of UF, and they both agree to insist on electoral system of proportional representation for the British Guyana at the Constitutional Conference, which begins in London on 23rd of October. Note 5 of that report states that the CIA contacted Burnham subsequently, and in return for promises of financial assistance to the PNC, he gave assurances respecting his political program. Therefore, Burnham got paid. Note 7 of that same report states, subsequently the CIA contacted DeGar and he also agreed on political program in return for certain financial support. So UF also got paid. Now my people, based on the evidence we just examined, I can conclude that both Burnham and Jagan probably did not understand geopolitics and therefore has no respect for it. They both were too busy pursuing their own political programs in accordance with their own political ideology at the expense of the country. As a result of that, the Western masters forced that beautiful country into extreme poverty via devaluation and financial constraints, which caused the next generation that follows enormous hardship. For example, in 1985, 4.252 Ghana dollar was exchanging for $1. By December 1992, 125 Ghana dollar was exchanging for $1. What that really means is this. In 1985, you could get 4 items out of Guyana for $1. By 1992, you can extract 125 items out of Guyana for the same $1. So they were bleeding and shifting the resources out from that nation through devaluation. In addition to devaluation and economic constraints levied onto that nation, that country also suffered enormous brain drain, which they have never recovered from up to today. However, we cannot blame the Western nations for doing that to our country. We have to blame ourselves for not being able and educated and strong enough to protect, defend, and control our resources. Because this is what the Western people do. They go to poor countries and they rape and pillage it of their resources. What we all need to understand is that if a country cannot protect its resources, then it is not capable of nationhood. However, we are capable of nationhood. We are strong people. We took our punches. We got knocked down. But now we have learned from it and we are going to rise again. One of our mistakes is that we did not fully understand the oldest colonial trick in the book, which is divide and conquer. What that means is you installed and emotionalized identities onto people and then play them against each other. For example, in 1964, the formation of a political party called GUMP stands for Guyana United Muslim Party, was formed and financed by the Western masters to split the Asian voters between Hindus and Muslims so that they can be played against each other. The purpose of this was to weaken the PPP hold on power and strengthen the PNC position in becoming the governing party, because they were more likely to satisfy the appetite of the Western masters. Today, even the local masters have learned from the Western masters and are now promoting divide and conquer among the people, especially during election time. So my younger brothers and sisters, please do not subscribe to this madness. Instead, do something that makes you feel proud today by changing your mindset and stop this insanity. Then, by 1964, since they failed to divide the brown voters between Hindu and Muslim, they then embarked on a journey to overthrow Jagan. By July 1964, plans to overthrow the government of Premier Cheddi Jagan in British Guyana. This document reads, the government of Premier Cheddi Jagan to be overthrown, and a government headed by Forbes Burnham, leader of the People National Congress, and Peter Degard, leader of the UF, to be installed. So much for democracy. Extracts of the document reads, Burnham has already been informed of the scheme, and Degard will be asked to join the planning, as well as contribute $2,000. Burnham was not to know of Degard's proposed active role. Both Burnham and Degard are being urged to form a revolutionary government. Cheddi and Janet are to be kidnapped and hidden in Venezuela. So based on the evidence we just examined, those who rule Guyana can be determined by forces outside of Guyana. So this upcoming election, please do not jeopardize that country growth, success, progress, and future with your vote. Choose sovereignty and security and totally discard your emotions. So if there is a political party on that ballot paper that is not liked by the United States government or other Western masters, then you need to be careful with that, because these people can plunge that country back into darkness. You must also understand that since independence, that beautiful nation was cursed with political ideological problems, which brought us enormous amounts of economic pain. So therefore we need some time now to turn our losses into gains. Don't ever forget that politicians will come and identify your weaknesses, and they will strengthen that weaknesses with promises so that you can leave their political campaign with hope. Although they know that promises don't have to be fulfilled, it is just a promise. So therefore you can become an asset to a political party one day before election, then become a liability to that same party one day after the election, after they won, of course, because at that point they will need to convert on that obligation they made to you, and that will require resources. They will even go as far as to identify your fears and energize you and install the right motivation in you for you to go out and vote, because after all, only an energized person will go to the ballot box on polling day. An unenergized person will not go to vote. So on election day, please discard all your emotions and rationally choose a party with skills and experiences in a very clear, solid mandate for economic growth, security, and sovereignty. After all, elections are not a popularity contest. It is a recruitment process for governance.